Hey y'all, it's Tammy. It's book tag time, and just be forewarned, I am sucking a hard candy because I have done so much filming today that I am losing my voice. Today we're going to do the perfect book tag. And there are 12 prompts in this tag. And this is one of those wonderful blog-inspired tags, which I really love. Because they tend to be more, I don't want to say thoughtful, but there seems to be more depth in the answers. That could be because I prefer the written tags versus the video tags, even though I don't do written tags on my own blog, which I need to do. So, let's talk about the perfect book tag. The first prompt is the perfect genre. Now, I don't think there is any such thing as the perfect genre. I really don't. As a mood reader, I have no hard and fast preference. I have no, prohibitions on reading almost anything. I am unlikely to pick up, no fireball, something in the horror. I'm unlikely to pick up something in horror genre, for instance, or the, darkest of grimdark. I'm unlikely. Very unlikely. But, if it's well written and it has compelling characters, it's very possible that I would read that. So I don't think for me there is a perfect genre. However, I did pick a book for this, and that's because there are so many genres in this book, and they're all so well done that it really does work for me. And that is Love in the Eternal City by Rebecca W. Martin. This is the first book in the Swiss Guard romance series. She is currently working on book 2. And this is Catholic fiction. It is a rom-com. I will tell you, the banter in this book is top tier. It is absolutely top tier. It has faith. It has, it's romantic comedy. There's suspense. There's mystery. There's family. There's all these things. And yet, what sounds like way too many genres in one book is so well done that I absolutely fell in love with it. I pre-ordered this on my Kindle, and I loved it so much that I went and purchased a physical copy so that it could sit on my shelves. That says a lot about the book. So, next up is the perfect setting. Again, I really don't have a perfect setting. If I had to think of a book that was perfection in its setting, that would be The Queen's Governess by Karen Harper. She does Tudor England so well in this book that you are quite literally transported. And it is a beautifully written book. It is a beautifully told story. And it is fiction based on an actual woman. And this was published in 2010. It's just over 350 pages. No, it is 349 pages. And this is the book I recommend For anybody who says they don't like historical fiction, or they can't relate to historical fiction, or it's all dry and boring, this book is none of those things. And if you can read this book and tell me you don't fall in love with it, I would have trouble believing you, to be honest. It is a phenomenally written book based on an actual woman who was the governess of Queen Elizabeth I. It tells her life story, and seriously, it's so good I'll read you the blurb. The extraordinary tale of Elizabeth I's closest ally and most trusted confidant. A woman whose story has never been told until now. Catherine Ashley, the daughter of a poor country squire, comes to the royal court as a spy for Henry VIII's man, Thomas Cromwell. She befriends Anne Boleyn, and as a dying favor to the doomed queen, agrees to become governess to the young Princess Elizabeth. Together they suffer bitter exile, assassination attempts, and imprisonment, barely escaping with their lives. But when Elizabeth is crowned, Cat continues to serve her, faithfully guarding all the queen's secrets, even the ones that could bring down her monarchy. Anne Boleyn, Elizabeth once said, gave me life, but Kate Ashley gave me love. If I could convince everybody to go read, buy, borrow from their library one book in 2025, it would be The Queen's Governess by Karen Harper. It is an amazing story. Next up, The Perfect Protagonist. Again, this was a difficult choice, but I chose The Way of Kings, which is the first book in the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. And there are many protagonists in any Sanderson book. And in this case, we have our quintessential farm boy, although he's not really a farm boy. We have our young ingenue heroine. We have an older heroine. We have, older protagonists. And then they all just seamlessly blend into this fantastic fantasy story that is so immersive and is so well written and has so much detail that I had to tab a fantasy book to know what was going on as the story continues in the rest of the series and how it relates back. And Sanderson writes fantasy that is approachable to everyone. And it's clean fantasy, and it's swear-free fantasy. So I don't think anybody would have a problem reading Sanderson. Okay, prompt number 4. The Perfect Best Friend. Again, this was another one that was just kind of difficult to come up with an answer for, but I did pick the first book in the Seven Sisters series. I think the entire series qualifies for this tag. I've read books 1 and 2 of the series, and I think it qualifies because if you have 6 sisters, the chances of them being, your best friends in life, I would think would be rather high. And yes, it's perfectly obvious from the get-go in the series that some sisters are closer to other sisters. But still, I don't have a sister. I think this qualifies. And every one of these books is dual timeline, self-discovery, historical and contemporary. They're fascinating, and I am going to enjoy finishing this series, hopefully next year. She says, hopefully. Prompt number 5. The perfect love interest. This was a buddy read with Amanda this year. That is The Nature of a Lady by Rosanna M. White. This is the first book in the Secrets of the Isles series. It was my first book by Rosanna that I read to completion. And the reason I chose Oliver as the perfect love interest for Lady Libby is that he not just lets Libby be Libby, he lets Libby know that she has his full support and that she is his definition of what he thinks is his perfect love and companion and soulmate, and nothing Libby could say would shock Oliver to his core enough that he would, throw up his hands in despair and walk away. With Oliver, Libby discovers she can just be Libby and she doesn't have to meet societal expectations for a woman of her station. And I loved their love story. I absolutely loved their love story. Okay. Prompt number 6. The perfect villain. And I chose Dune Messiah by Herbert. In this case, it is the hero from book 1, who is the perfect villain in book 2. I did not enjoy this book at all. It has put me off of reading book 3. This is a short Herbert sci-fi. It's 267 pages in this format. And any character that has had the impact on a civilization and society and universe that Paul Atreides has had cannot be perfection. And in this case, Atreides is absolutely the villain of the story. There is nothing remotely likable about Paul Atreides in the story. I read it because I wanted to get to book 3. I loved Dune, the first book. I do not like this book at all. Okay. Prompt number 7. The Perfect Family. In Pieces by Rhonda Ortiz. This is the first book in the Molly Chase series. And the perfect family in this book is the Robb family, who, as Molly was growing up, the Robbs worked for her parents, and as the book opens up, Josiah Robb is the oldest son of the Robb family. He was Molly's playmate, tormentor, friend growing up. And now Josiah and his mother and sister are exactly what Molly needs. They provide her a safe shelter. They provide her love. They provide guidance and comfort, and I will link my review down below for this book. Y'all know how much I love this series, how much I love Rhonda's writing. This is masterful historical fiction. It is masterful historical fiction. It is also Catholic fiction. It is set in 1793 Boston. Post-Revolutionary War America is not something that ends up in historical fiction very often. It's a master class in fiction. Prompt number 8, the perfect animal or pet. There were many, many choices I could have chosen for this. We all know I am a sucker for dogs. I love a good cat mystery, a good bird mystery. I could have chosen the Lori Cass series. I could have chosen, Fitz from Robin Hobb with his love for dogs. I had many choices. I chose a book I have not read yet, but I love the cover and I love the back description, and that is My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry by Frederick Bachman. It has a black Labrador Retriever on it. So, we're already winning. There's a black lab. Now, I don't have a black lab anymore, but it does remind me of Sangria. So I will read you the back. Elsa is 7 years old and different. Her grandmother is 77 years old and crazy. As in, standing on the balcony firing paint guns at strangers crazy. She is also Elsa's best and only friend. At night, Elsa takes refuge in her grandmother's stories. In the land of Almost Awake and the kingdom of Mimas, where everybody is different and nobody needs to be normal. When Elsa's grandmother dies and leaves behind a series of letters apologizing to people she's wronged, Elsa's great adventure begins. Her grandmother's instructions lead her to an apartment building full of misfits, monsters, attack dogs, and old crones, but also to the truth about fairy tales and kingdoms and a grandmother like no other. I want to dive in. I've heard nothing but brilliant things about his writing. I haven't read anything by him, and I think this is going to be just a fabulous read for me. I am looking forward to it immensely. I really am. I'm looking forward to it immensely. And I like the fact that the beginning of every chapter has a different drawing, and that the chapters all have titles. So, perfect animal or pet. Prompt number 9. Perfect plot twist. This was a very easy pick. The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. I'm not going to say any more. There are so many twists and turns in this book. They are all perfection. And I want to read everything by him. And I'm just going to leave it at that. If you know, you know. And if I said any more, I would spoil it if you haven't read it. And that is the last thing you want somebody to do. All right. Prompt number 10. The perfect trope. Again, much like prompt number 1, this was very difficult for me, but it was easy at the same time. I chose a Mary Kay Andrews book, and that is because I know that if I pick up anything Mary Kay Andrews that is not Christmas related, it's going to be the perfect beach read. And it's just that simple. She writes the perfect beach read. And so from my shelves, I pulled Summer Rental. Just, beach chairs. It's going to be a beach read. The cover supports the back, which supports the content. It's going to be a great female-centric family drama with a little bit of romance, a little bit of angst, a little bit of love. You know, just it's going to be the perfect beach read. It's what you want to read on a hot summer day. It's just, that's what her books do for me. And I've read the back of this before, so I'm not going to read it again. But yeah, Mary Kay Andrews all the way. All right, prompt number 11, the perfect cover. Front Yard by Norman Draper. I'm sorry. This is the second book. The first book is The Backyard, which I read on my Kindle years ago. However, I love this cover. It is perfection, is what you want your front yard to look like, filled with flowers and color and, you know, a birdhouse. And yeah, these are set in Minnesota. I loved the first book. I was going to try and read this in August this year, and I obviously didn't do that. But I think this winter, when, you know, I'm a little tired of Texas winter, I will pick this up. Or when I'm, you know, trying to sit down to plan 2025 garden, this would be great inspiration for that. So, yeah. I love that cover. Okay. Last prompt on this book tag is the perfect ending. This was easy. In fact, this was the first book of this tag that I, you know, picked because it was so apt. That is Guardian by Kathy McCrum. This is the concluding book of the Children of the Consortium trilogy, and it is the perfect ending. I cannot say anything else because I will spoil the entire series if I talk about this book too much. But I will tell you that it is perfection. It is perfection. I love the thing you've wanted since book one. The thing you most wanted to know since book one occurs in this book at the very end. And if you haven't read it yet, don't spoil it, and flip to the back and discover the thing you most want to know. Don't do that to yourself. It is worth reading the whole book to get to the end. It is a beautiful moment and an absolutely phenomenal series. If you think you don't like sci-fi, the Children of the Consortium series will prove you wrong. If you love sci-fi and haven't heard of this series, then you need to go pick it up. It is fantastic. But you've heard me say that before. It's not a surprise. I will link my review down below. And that, my dear friends, was the perfect book tag. I'm not going to tag anyone. No sense handing out homework on a perfection tag. If you need something to fill some space or you're out of ideas, feel free to use it. Tag me. I'd love to see your answers. And I look forward to your comments. Like and subscribe. And I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.